Hi, I'm Nikki Luna. I'm here for Rappler, and we're now here in Baguio at Ililikha village. And I'm here today with Kidlat Tahimik. Let's find out more about him. Actually, I just wanted to know, um, were you raised here in Baguio? Were you born here?
I was born in Baguio and raised here at nagbalik Baguio na rin.
Balik Baguio. Where the whole time were you just here, and or did you study abroad?
Well, I went to UP, Diliman. Wala pang UP Baguio noon. And then after that, I studied abroad. Then I worked in Paris for a few years and then wandered off to Germany where I met my wife and my kid.
Oh,
So, pero nagbalik bayan na kami ng 1979
oh, okay. That's good.
kasi we didn't want our kid to grow up with what I call a Werner von Braun education. He's very scientific minded. Mas maganda dito sa bayan natin na medyo kapwa culture, people are so open and friendly. So we decided, unlike most people who think abroad is heaven, paradise, we decided paradise is here at home.
That's nice to hear. Were you an artist the whole time?
Yes and no. Okay. Yung undergraduate major ko sa UP was speech and drama. Okay. And after that, I got an MBA abroad.
What school is this again?
The Wharton School of Finance, University of Pennsylvania. And then I worked as an economist after that, pero sa kaloob-loobong ko, parang may hindi at home,
May kulang?
may kulang, may kukuna I had to break out of. And so I came back and I got out of my economics and MBA straitjacket. At a series of circumstances led me to become a filmmaker, an indie filmmaker, an anti-Hollywood filmmaker, a stretch your resources filmmaker, a bathala na filmmaker.
So that was your turning point right after your Wharton.
Yeah, nung nasa UP ako, I was a happy-go-lucky artist. Yung mga barkada ko sila Ben Cervantes, si Lino Broca, sabay kaming graduate. Yun lang, by chance, accidentally I was elected president of the UP Student Council sa Diliman. So at the end of that year, akala ko presidential na. So I decided to take an MBA. Which in the long run, I felt, wow, hindi pala bagay sa akin. Kasi yung kaloob-looban ko, it's made of different stuff. No? So eventually, I found my way back to the arts.
So when you make your films, the influence comes from the place that you live in, your culture, history.
Yeah,
How would you say your influence comes from?
I don't know, especially in film, it's so easy to get attracted by outer stories. No? Because film is it's a high cost and a high profit industry. So ang nangyayari, a lot of people who are attracted to film are interested in that side. No? Buy my Mercedes-Benz before I'm 30. By making one or two blockbusters. You know. Pero when we talk about the influence of film, lalo pa sa mga kabataan, sa values natin, I think we have a responsibility na we shouldn't ignore topics that bring out the local strengths.
Yeah.
Yung ating kaalaman na merong kahulugan sa ating pagiging Pilipino and as global citizens. No? So, I have opted in that direction. I tore up my Wharton diploma. in 1972, and I started growing my hair and never looked back again. I burned that bridge kasi if I would just follow yung sex and violence formulas para patok sa takilya, di ba? That's the only goal, patok sa takilya. Wala, I think yung direction ng mundo natin will be, well, like the rest of the world, seems to, we've lost balance, no? And yung nangyari sa kultura natin sa Pilipinas is a very good example. It's a good case study for the rest of the world to look at, where yung sobrang natabunan ng imposed cultures has created a loss of direction. I'm sure many people will disagree with me kasi, wow, we're more American than Americans. We speak English better than the New Yorkers. Ewan pa, but yeah, totoo yan. But parang a large proportion of our population who has not reached that level of using English as a medium, or yung mindset ng efficiency mindset ng mga Kano, we're not tapping their abilities and assets, no? Our indigenous people have so much to contribute, pero we're all stuck with diplomas, and usually diplomas na galing sa Western world. And ang nangyayari, we're becoming a copycat culture, whether it's the business institutions, political institutions, or art. I'm the Picasso of the Philippines, di ba? I'm the Spielberg of the Philippines. Ewan ko. Sayang, kasi very talented ang Pinoy. Ang galing ng Pinoy. We just have to get out of this cocoon of American dreams that has become standard. And unfortunately, TV and the media and our newspapers, advertising, everything's pushing people towards that be like them culture at the expense of yung kayamanan natin.
You're trading off your own culture.
Yeah.
Do you think this view comes from, because where it comes from, it's because you were raised here in Baguio. You had the privilege of being here
I
close.
like your word, privilege. I never thought of it that way.
It is a privilege to be...
Yeah. I think, yeah, whatever cosmic circumstance na dito ako pinanganak sa Baguio. Kasi Baguio is well, there are a lot of melting pots, no? But Baguio is unique kasi yung cosmopolitan mindset ng foreigners Americans, when they set up Baguio as a hill station, and that mixed with the indigenous mindsets of the Cordillera people, no?
Yeah.
So the Igrots, the Ifugaos, mga Kalinga, mga taga-Abra, these people, the proximity of Baguio to them. Baguio was like a gateway to those places.
Yeah.
And because the Americans tried to make us in their image, they brought some practical sides of becoming modern or being efficient. Although I don't agree totally with living only for efficiency and production and raising GNP per capita. That's what I was trained in Wharton, but I've questioned it, and I think the world is beginning to question it. Why don't we be like Bhutan? Gross happiness index. I think there must be some other model that will not consume this planet na hindi talagang magiging yung resources natin will be just for a waste consumption society, medyo nawawala. Alam ng mga Igorots at mga Kalingas at Ifugaos na you have a lot of trees, just get what you need. Bakit ka kukuha ng isang forest dahil may isang Japanese who's going to offer you 20 chainsaws to knock down the whole forest, no? May preno, may cultural preno ang mga Cordillera cultures. And also, that's true with a lot of our lowland cultures.
Indigenous.
Ang kultura ng tao, our culture is like I look at culture as it's both the collective energizer, collective engine ng sambayanan. But it's also the collective preno. So, kung collectively mag-decide tayo na, okay, we're going to become a dragon economy like Singapore, and everybody feels that, yun, sige, let's aim for that. Yung kultura adjusts to that energizing drive. No? Pero it's not only that drive. Meron ring, culture also serves as a preno. Ito, bawal ito. You can't accumulate so much wealth at the expense of a million people, di ba? It's, may preno sa greed, may preno sa incest, may preno sa, well, like the Ten Commandments, siguro. Pero itong, nung kinopya natin yung lifestyle ng mga Westerners, yung preno system natin ang hindi natin na-develop or we lost it. And I think that's why there's a lot of, parang ang gulo kuminsan sa Pilipinas. Diba? And all we have to do is get back to our kapwa culture. Kasi ang kapwa culture natin is, yan ang preno para hindi tayo sosobra, para hindi tayo nag-exploit ng iba. Kasi kapwa always considers the other. Yung kapwa culture is a, well, kapwa psychology, which is a locally developed analysis of our psyche. No? Kasi ang tagal-tagal na nating sinusundan yung mga Sigmund Freud, psychology, Carl Jung, yung mga daga ni Skinner. Are these really relevant to us? Yan mga methodology nila was developed for industrial societies. Kaya they always talk about repressive psychology, mga taong nagwawala dahil they were held back. And for individualistic societies. Kasi industrial development allowed people to just be competitive.
I want to ask you something about that in connection to Baguio now. Because of, I see it so different from years ago. And I'm sure you know this. And how can you apply this yung sinasabi ng Cordillera na sila may preno, di ba?
Yeah.
But ngayon, there's so much commercialism. And you can really see Baguio is thriving, but a lot of the other things have been sacrificed too because of all the developments.
Yeah.
What can you say about that?
Okay, in the end, yun nga. That's why I said Baguio is a good case study, no? When the Americans developed Baguio as a hill station, it was mainly as an escape from Manila. They could transfer the government here and govern from Baguio during the summer months. And Baguio then has continued its own autonomous development as a educational center and as a tourist center. And yeah, Baguio has grown so big and it has ignored some of those preno systems. Let's say just in terms of cutting pine trees, no? Kaya ngayon, umiinit na dito sa Baguio. We had this big case of a mall trying to cut 182 trees to add more parking spaces. That's the irony.
But it's there.
And of course, that adds to global warming.
Yes.
This is a microcosm of what's happening. Kaya umiinit ang mundo. And that's why it leads to more typhoons like Yolanda or earthquakes, etc. Of course, the scientists will say, prove it, no? Especially the economists, ayaw nilang, they don't want to have a preno on the economic development. Pero sa Baguio, we deal with that. Kami mga artists, we deal with these contradictions here.
How do you deal with it?
Well, okay, when there was the cutting of the 182 trees there outside the SM Mall, we objected to that. Whenever we have had Baguio Arts Festivals, a lot of the tribal themes about environmental balance, lumalabas yun sa artworks. Our filmmakers from Baguio, like this Kalinga girl, si Joe Banasan, deals also with many little cultural practices that she grew up with, which are the preno to over exploitation of our natural resources. I remember a few years ago nung Centennial, I did a performance na nakabahag ako, and then I was waving another bahag.
Yeah.
And I was telling, Ka Andres Bonifacio, Ka Jose Rizal, makikibaka kami sa inyong revolusyon. Pero wala kaming armas, wala kaming baril. 500 taon na namin winawagayway ang aming mga bahag laban sa dayuhan. See, it's a cultural resistance. We didn't
Yeah.
have arms, but this cultural resistance, because we could apply a preno, this was what all we could offer.
Yes.
And I think that's what we can offer the world too. No?
Okay, you're known as a very respected artist, globally known as a filmmaker, but a lot of people don't know that you're also involved in other things, such as being an environmentalist, having this place, you know,
I'm
creating it
also,
for
I do
that.
performance, I make installations.
Exactly, yeah. So, with having this in Baguio, what did you have in mind, having this place for the artists, for the community?
Okay, mainly it's really for the artists, no? Yeah, the city is now see, uy, manggaling ito pang tourism, but that's a secondary thing. The main thing is, Ililikha Artist Village is mainly a center for artistic energies, and we have artists run their own cafes and restaurants. Pero later, magkakaroon dito ng mga workshops, studios, maybe a small theater. Kasi politicians, they're always interested nga in this thing called economic development, but very few realize na importanteng ma-sustain yung kultura para, yun nga, para yung mga abusado medyo nakokontrol. It's always too late when you just, pag gumuguho na yung mga bangin, and you say, nga pala, there used to be a forest there. But artists have, okay, especially our group, it's not art for art's sake. No? Gusto namin yung what we call culture bearer artists.
Okay.
Ito yung mga artists na nakikita nila yung kahalagaan ng kaalaman ng mga lolo at lola natin, lalo pa dito sa Cordilleras. Because that culture that built the rice terraces, that's a superior culture. Ang rice terraces is older than the pyramids of Egypt or yung Great Wall of China. Pero 3,000 years ago, they built these rice terraces without a single cent of US aid. Ngayon, napakasip-sip natin. We always have to wait for a dole out because we're trying to be like them. Ngayon, our education has made us ignore yung kaalaman ng mga katutubo. And that's just what we need now to bring our world back into balance. I'm not being a xenophobe. Hindi ako anti-American, anti-Western at lahat. Sinasabi ko lang, baka when we take all that, bakit natin ibabasura yung kayamanan natin? Yung kaalaman ng mga indigenous people. No?
Yes.
You know, my best friend is at Ifugao. And he always mispronounced the word indigenous.
To what?
He would say, we indigenous people have been taken for granted. We must fight for our indigenous culture. Yan, yung kalaman na yon is what we have lost. he combined, this friend of mine, by mispronouncing it, parang cosmic mispronunciation yan. He combined the genius of the indigenous into one word. Which says a
Yeah.
lot, di ba? Ganun talaga.
Simple.
May genius pa rin yung dating kaalaman natin, and if we use it, we would be the race of the future. Kasi we're already westernized, we cannot undo that.
Yes.
Pero we don't also let the over-westernization
Killer.
kill our resources and our trees and our forests, because yung kaalaman ng mga Ifugaos na cut only what you need,
Yeah.
dig only what you need, and because of that may harmony sila sa kalikasan, di ba?
How do you think the arts and artists contribute to the tourism here in Baguio? I think it's a major
Well,
thing.
tourism is tourism is a double-bladed knife. Okay, it was the Bali. They continue to practice their culture, and a lot of tourists go there, pero napakalakas ng cultural practices nila na wala silang pake sa mga foreigners. Ito sa atin, we were in-uproot yung dati nating kultura. So, yung minsan yung mga sayaw na mga igorot, naging palabas na lang, di ba?
Entertainment.
It's all for show to the tourists, which is different when it's a living culture na
Being practiced.
it continues to also regulate life. Kaya dun sa Ifugao, the rice terraces is the only, it's been declared by by UNESCO heritage, living heritage, no? Besides the physical structure. Pero the fact that tinatamnan at nag-aani every year for the last 3,000 years,
Yeah.
it's still a living heritage landmark. Hindi gaya ng pyramids, it's a dead monument. Ang Great Wall of China, it's also a dead monument, di ba? Pero itong rice terraces still continue to be harvested and planted. So, buhay na buhay yung lifestyle nila. It regulates, the rice cycle becomes a basis for, when a child is born, like the Christian baptism, they have the bogor. No? Yung bogor is, you register the child with the gods para alagaan. When they have post-harvest rituals, yung parang there's a day of playfulness. Oh, tama na, tigil na yung pag-ani. Bukas, mag-tug of war tayo sa river. These are mga psychically balancing activities, no? And yet, I don't know, for all that we're trying, we're getting into this Facebook, internet, computer world. And I think it's creating problems for our next generation.
I have one last question. Why is it important for you to wear the bahag when you perform?
Okay, I'm a self-appointed president of the Balik Bahag movement. Okay, it's a metaphor, diba? The bahag is one of the things na kinahihiyan ng mga young Cordillerans because yan ang tinuro sa kanila ng mga colonial culture. It's primitive to wear a bahag, nakakahiya, blah blah blah. Now, in the end, kanya-kanyang standards yan, di ba? So if people think that if we maybe conquered them, we could have told them your Thai is uncivilized because ang init-init, you're choking, you're not comfortable. The force of military might or colonial powers have created, ito dapat ang kulturang sundan yun. And all I'm saying is, okay, we don't have to go back to everybody wearing a bahag, pero metaphor ko yan. I have two things that I have for my metaphor. It's my bahag and my bamboo camera. Sayang wala ako dito ngayon. But the bamboo camera is also a metaphor for telling the local story. why make a copy of Mission Impossible 28 or Star Wars 234 or that's what schools are training our young media students, no? Pero if we tell the local story, ang daming magandang kwento dito. So the metaphor of that for in terms of art and filmmaking, and in terms of the bahag as a way of life that we were equally as good in achievements, whether it's engineering or irrigation like the rice terraces. Hindi dapat kahiyaan ang kultura yung katutubong kultura natin. And if we get back to that, we will really, I think if we can neutralize lang yung shame, okay? And maybe artists have that role. Pero yung education system natin also has to deal with that. As a matter of fact, yung current Secretary of Education has opened the door. He apologized to the Indigenous people, si Secretary Luis Stroford. The first Secretary of Education who said, "We're sorry that our mainstream education has marginalized yung kaalaman ninyo." Now, if we incorporate that, what the artists do, and the media also just stops being American Idol. Di ba? Yan. We and allow our old wisdom to come back. The world will respect us. Luluhod sila sa Pinoy. Kasi we're so flexible and our kapwa culture has corrected. If we let this just go back, and maybe the media, the cameras, and all these help us bring back this kind of thing. Wow! Galing ng Pinoy. Galing.
Okay, there you have it. We just spoke to Kidlat Tahimik. I'm Nikki Luna for Rappler.